Hello, everyone. My name is Benedikt. I'm the CEO of the Munich Security Conference. And today we've turned the table around. I am getting to interview some YouTubers here in our YouTube studio in Munich. And I've been looking forward to this the entire weekend. After around 600 events, my voice is a little hoarse and I don't look like I looked before the weekend, but I am ready to grill you too and to do what you've done to some of our guests. Let's begin. What was your highlight over the weekend?
I think for me it was just interesting. As a journalist, I never had been here, and I used to see only the politicians giving their remarks or debating on the big stage here on TV and on the news. And now to get like literally the bigger picture and see like what's happening next to that stage or behind that stage or behind the closed doors and here on the upper floors of the hotel, that was very interesting because you always hear about there's a certain vibe and everything is like so close and people meet on the floors or even in the bathrooms, right? And I really got that atmosphere here, and that was for me very interesting to experience.
What surprised you? Was it what you expected or was there a surprise?
Something that surprised me was actually the good representation of women on the stage that has been criticized heavily over the last years, and this year I think it was 50-50. And I came here with the expectation to see obviously like a lot of old white men in suits, like middle me. But yeah, and then still in front of the stage I think it's still not a pair, but I met so many very interesting, strong and visionary women, and that was it's not a surprise that these women exist, but it's a good thing to have them all here concentrated at the conference.
Perfect. We'll get back to the women issue in a minute. You've said that we've been rightly criticized, and we've really done, I think, a remarkable job in not only finding the right women, but actually persuading them to come here, because it's not that easy. The good women in the business of foreign security policy get millions and millions of invitations, and making sure that they actually come to Munich and spend a weekend here was actually quite a feat. We've got half women on the stage, but only a third in the audience, so that's where we'll have to be better. What surprised you, Jack?
I think what surprised me was kind of how seriously we were taken as YouTubers and the ability and the access that we got. I think often, especially independent channels like ours, aren't treated all that seriously by the kind of politicians that we want to talk to. And I mean, we have an audience of about 2 million young people that are desperate to learn more about the news and want to hear directly from the people who are actually involved. And I think the access and the ability we got to do that here was kind of remarkable, and we've kind of never been offered that before. So we're really appreciative of the people who did speak to us, and I think the ability for them to take us seriously and give us really great answers, I think will resonate so well with our audience over the next week or so.
But that actually is also, like, when we speak about representation, an important point, and we were speaking about that before, that youth is still very much underrepresented here, while all these powerful people that meet here shape the world for them. So I think they should actually have a say, and they should actually also be present on the big stage to see, like, to talk to the older people, like, what do they want and what do they also ask from them to take action on. And that I missed. I would have liked to see more of that here.
Point taken. No, we definitely can get better. We did have a youth hub outside.
Yeah, outside is the key word.
We were absolutely right. And we were hoping to feed back into the conference, but I think that's not the right way to do it. And you're absolutely right that we need to work on that. Then again, it's rather difficult to identify the right people to use this platform in the right way, because we're just not a campaign or advocacy platform. We want to be a serious place for serious people. And have some, relevant and consequential debates, but we can definitely get better at that. But stop grilling me. I was supposed to grill you.
No, I completely agree, though. I think this is a really great opportunity for us to reach out and show more of MSC to an audience that might not necessarily engage generally, or certainly I imagine young people are slightly less engaged with what's going on here. So I think the YouTube kind of studio here is a great way of us reaching out, but the ability for young people to reach back in, I mean, the representation of younger people asking questions is great. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what could happen with that in the future.
I think, what was your highlight?
My highlight, I think I kind of agree. Just being able to be in the rooms and see what's happening firsthand. I think the ability to just be around, see people kind of get the vibe in person, I think has been really interesting, kind of something I haven't had the opportunity to do before.
And let's talk about content. You spoke about the vibe. What was the vibe? Did you feel some optimism regarding some of the ongoing wars and conflicts, or was it the opposite? What, as journalists, are you two taking away from here?
I think certainly from the people we're talking to, there's more optimism than I would have expected. Do you disagree?
I think, especially yesterday, I found it very tense, like regarding China, and that you
Yes,
could
that is
see
true.
like Ursula von der Leyen and Kamala Harris taking rather strong stances towards that. Like, it's not. I felt like this on the very big scale. There was not a very friendly atmosphere, but there were certain signals being sent. While at the same time, there seemed to be a lot of on eyesight conversations next to those stages.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's definitely a mixture for sure. I mean, the Chinese foreign minister yesterday as well is another notable example of kind of, I don't know, people saying very different things and different approaches to each other. So I think it's been mixed. I think the people we've been speaking to have been generally more optimistic. But I guess it's hard to interpret what that means when they're being interviewed by us.
True. And what have we missed? I mean, was there something, I'm not talking about organizationally, but what topic would you like to see on the agenda more prominently or at all?
I found that actually really, I kept thinking every night when I got back from here, I was like, it's all the crises and conflicts concentrating at that conflict. And at the same time, you can see that people, I don't know, do they have to prioritize the different crises? Because obviously the Ukraine and the Russian invasion to Ukraine is on the top one of all the panels, right? It shaped the whole program. And you think, but like there's so many different places in the world where there are terrible conflicts happen, even bigger wars on the African continent, that it's just, when I also went to a panel with Minister Habeck because I was about to interview him, and there was just not as big an audience as on the panel before when it was about defense and transatlantic relations. And I was like, wow, you can still see like there's so many bad things going on in the world, and it's overwhelming that you have to prioritize, or obviously people here have to prioritize, because otherwise apparently there's no way to cope. And that was for me really hard to fathom or to cope with.
Yeah, I think the kind of bigger picture issues, I mean, obviously the crises of today are really important, and there are conversations about bigger picture problems too. But I thought it was really interesting speaking to the Pakistani foreign minister yesterday, that she has criticisms of various kind of Western approaches on all kinds of things. But her thoughts on the kind of different types of crises there are that face her country and also around the world. And then how that leads into kind of environmental crisis and all the other things. I think maybe I missed it. We've been in here a lot. We've been preparing for interviews. But it would have been interesting to hear some of the kind of broader scale, long-term stuff that especially impacts young people in the generations to come.
And you've said something very interesting, because we tried a couple of years ago to ask people to rank their worries. Is it China or Russia they're most worried about? Is it balloons or submarines? Is it COVID or the plague? And what we did, we asked 1,000 people in all the BRICS and G7 states. And what we got back was this feeling you can no longer rank your worries. And they have combined into sort of a tidal wave of drama. And that tidal wave of drama is something that leads to a feeling of collective and individual helplessness. And that was the title of the conference 3 days before the Russian invasion. It was called Unlearning Helplessness. And I have the feeling that we did unlearn helplessness over the last year, that a lot of things have changed. So let me end on one question. How real is Zeitenwende for you? When you go back from Munich, will you report to people that there is a Zeitenwende? You can feel the Zeitenwende, this turn of an area where Germany is taking more responsibility, where Europe is finally becoming a geopolitical actor?
I think, like, I was preparing also for Sanna Marin, and the Finland and Sweden entering the NATO. That for me is a part of a Zeitenwende, because for so long they had taken a neutral stance. So there's definitely happening something in Europe. And being from Germany and the German participant, I also know how my country is being criticized for sometimes being too slow with decisions. Like first saying, okay, now we do the Zeitenwende, and then Mr. Scholz is sometimes, for people, he is accused of being too slow. So it's interesting to see how different countries have different priorities in the Zeitenwende and also different paces at times. But I think there's definitely a change of eras. I mean, especially I'm 32, you are 26. We've grown up in a time of peace on the European continent and of no real existential threats. And I think that has massively changed over the last year. So there's definitely a change of like a turning point in ours as well. Yes.
How real is it?
I'm assuming Zeitenwende means turning point
Yes,
from
yes,
context.
sorry.
My preliminary German isn't that great. Sorry, my mum's watching and she speaks fluent German, so she'll be very disappointed at me.
I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mum. But no, I do think there is. I think just the conversations that we're having and kind of looking at how people are reacting. And as you say, there's different approaches in different countries. And we've even discussed the way that the Brits look at the Germans and the Germans look at the Brits. And I think there does seem to be a real shift, I think, looking at how we've kind of come together on issues like Ukraine, especially from a British perspective, where we were and maybe still are feeling kind of separated from Europe, which, I mean, is our own doing. I think things like Ukraine and the kind of bringing together of NATO is a real sign of a change for that. So I think it does feel genuine to me.
Perfect. We also have a Zeitenwende here because we have to. Many thanks for joining me. It was fun to interview you today. Thanks for coming all the way to Munich, and please come back often.
Thank you so much.